Hi everyone, my name's Andy Welch. Thank you for joining this session. I'm the CEO and founder of SRSLY Limited. At SRSLY, our business is reinventing food staples from delicious and unhealthy, such as pizza, pasta and bread, into delicious and healthy. Our mission is basically making eating healthy easy, and easy means tasty. So in today's short session, I'd like to share with you our view of the world over the last 3-4 years, but with input from many doctors and research agencies to give you an insight into how bread could once again become the healthy hero category in any supermarket. Unfortunately, the Western world is currently facing two of the costliest eating pandemics, obesity and diabetes. And bread is unfortunately a major contributing factor to the poor health we are facing. But before I get all negative, please allow me a few moments to indulge you with my actual love of bread. I love bread. Thank you. And that completes my TED Talk. Or should I carry on? Okay. So quick backstory on me. I discovered the benefits of a lifestyle called low carb to help me train for a 140-mile triathlon in a day type event. And that meant avoiding high carb products such as bread, pasta, rice, potato, those lovely stomach fillers that usually take up half a plate. But unfortunately, although I tried, I couldn't live on salad and tuna alone. And in 2019, SRSLY was founded because I wanted to be low carb, but I love bread. And if you think about it, there's so many elements to the joy of bread. There's the sensory perspective side of it, where you get the smell of freshly baked bread, the touch, the crack of the crust, to the soft inside where you slather it with butter or dip it into an egg. The texture is just amazing. But it's not just the sensory side that's amazing. It's about the absolute versatility of it too. If you're, it's there for wherever you need it. It's your friend, be it breakfast, nice picnic, grab and go at the garage. It's there for you. So when I adopted a low carb lifestyle, I had to reinvent bread for me, and I discovered bread is packed with bad carbs, and I'll discuss that later on. But since discovering an eating approach that's actually been researched since the early 1900s, and finding a way to make low carb bread. Not only has it helped me, but I've helped probably about 250,000 people in the UK alone, and it's a growing popularity globally and in the UK. So if we're now able to reach more people that couldn't previously eat bread, such as those who are type 1 diabetic, what could we do? What should we do? And these next sort of few slides give you a kind of an introduction of some things we can consider and think about. So here we go. So if bread could be more useful today and in the future, what does today actually look like? And why should bread change? And what bits of bread would you change? Well, okay, let's have a look at today then first. Let's start with the media, the press, social news feeds, those sort of things. I think we all unfortunately know we're a growing unhealthy population. Be it the soaring rates of obesity or diabetes or metabolic syndrome or hypertension. But we are at last talking about it. And society is now questioning the way food is made and the impact it has on our health, which is really, really important. We're not naive anymore. We're not naive. The government and the NHS are also including diet as a solution instead of just medication. So we want to do something about it, but our foods are evolved and probably not in the right way. We've got more and more highly processed foods. Highly processed food, highly processed carbohydrate is a common phrase we're hearing more and more. And by 2024, I believe, 65% of all food will be highly processed, including breads, packed full of unnecessary elements, including hidden sugars. So the government did actually do a 6-year or whatever study on this in the National Food Strategy, and it is very informative and worth a read. But if you want a version that tells you all about this and doesn't actually send you to sleep, I do recommend a book called Ravenous by Henry Dimbleby. No relation to David Dimbleby, obviously. And it's a very, very informative read from farm to fork. But highly processed foods are not good. The flours bread is made from is virtually unrecognizable in structure to the original ancient emmer wheat grains first used 3,000 years ago in Egypt. But there are other things such as no and low sugar categories and the taxes that have come, which are driving change. The government had actually invested in, I think, 270 eat healthy guidance campaigns since the 1950s. And apart from the 5 a day, which you probably know about, which is also unfortunately abused by industry and marketing, you probably can't really name another one apart from sugar tax, which has been great and has worked and has been a really good enforcement rather than a guide. But why are these things in the news? Why are we talking about this? Why are we referring this to bread? Let's go back to obesity and diabetes. Obesity and overweight rates in the UK at the moment are 68.6%, and that was last year, which basically means 7 out of 10 people are either overweight or obese. And 30% of people in the UK population are already pre-diabetic, although 80% of those don't realise this. Now, this isn't anything against obesity or diabetes, and to be in support of anyone's choice or preference in life. It is often not a choice, as our food industry is obesogenic. It encourages you to eat. It's packed full of unnecessary, highly processed carbs and hidden sugars. More on that a bit later on. So, wouldn't it be great if bread could be the hero range and take the lead in turning our world into a healthy end result? So, how do we do that? Well, let's have a quick game, a quick virtual game. I'm calling it the GI game. Very, very simple. So first off, fingers on imaginary buzzers. Okay. In the food context, what does GI stand for? Okay. Glycemic index, correct. The lady in the corner with the green hair. The glycemic index. I always thought glycemic index or GI index was about complex carbs. You eat brown rice, you live longer than eating white rice. I've since learned quite a lot, and I'm going to share some of that with you today. In terms of definition, the GI index is a way to measure the glucose in food. How much sugar is released, how quickly your blood spikes with that glucose, usually measured in around 45 minutes from eating that food. The scale is set from 1 to 100, 100 being the maximum in terms of the amount of glucose and the speed of release of that glucose. So, there's only a few questions. Question number 2. On the GI scale, okay, not 100, if you're looking at a slice of white bread, where does it sit? In comparison to cakes and chocolates and sweets and all those other things, where do you think bread sits? A few seconds to think about it. The answer between 0 and 100 is 100, okay? That means there isn't a food that releases more glucose than white bread. And I'll explain more about that in a second. But just to think, excessive glucose impacts insulin efficacy and encourages conversion of glucose into fats. And that wonderful friend of ours called bread is therefore one of the worst culprits. But bonus point question to you, just for a comparison of white bread. If bread's up here at 100, where on the GI scale do you think just a spoonful of granulated sugar sits? Okay, white sugar. Is it also 100, 99, 98? Where do you think on the scale? Okay, for those who don't know, it's not 90, 80, 70, 60. It's 56. So on a scale of 1 to 100, sugar sits at 56 and white bread sits at 100 compared to the amount of and the speed of sugar release into glucose. Why is that? It's a bit shocking, isn't it? So I know bread doesn't come across very well. And when you look at food labelling on bread, sugar usually comes around about 8% on the package. So what does this mean? It almost doesn't make sense. Now, highly processed food or highly processed carbs, that's white bread. And bread is typically 50 grams or 50% per 100, sorry, 50 grams per 100 or 50% of your nutritional amount is carbohydrate. And to touch on chemistry back at school, these simple carbohydrates are simple bonds, like a single molecule. So as soon as they hit your stomach, they get converted. And those molecules, that simple carbohydrate gets turned into glucose, fructose, etc. But predominantly it's glucose. So you could look at it as to say 100% of the carbohydrates in bread get turned to sugar. But as bread is 50% carbohydrates, that means half the bag of bread gets turned into sugar when you eat it. Penny drops. So when we learn about the hidden sugars in fruit juice in the 90s and the sugars in fizzy drinks, we acted upon it. But today, our labelling system doesn't really allow us to really identify these hidden sugars, as they really do hide behind the term carbohydrates. Yeah. So now I've given you a vision of a loaf of bread that is actually made out of sugar. Let's have a quick look on what we can do about it before we take some questions. How do we make bread the hero solution? Now, the underlying science I'm alluding to is low carb, or the more strict derivative of it is called keto or ketosis. And whilst we haven't got much time to debate it, let me leave you with a few takeaways on those terms. Keto and low carb are the most Googled search terms globally in Google. And as Google is the #1 search engine, it really is truly the #1 search term. If you go into free searches in Google Trends, you can have a look yourself. You can do all sorts of fun searches. But if you look under health and diet, keto and low carb is #1. The second thing in my low resolution graph, I do apologize, is a survey carried out by an industry leading agency called Statista. And they carried out just a small survey back in October 22 last year. And they interviewed or surveyed 1,000 people, and they asked, what diet do you follow? And the diets included, as you can see, things such as vegan, vegetarian, paleo, and including I don't follow a diet at all. But the interesting bit here is you can see that if you look at the cumulative amount, keto and low carb is now as popular as vegan, vegetarianism and paleo all added together. So in summary, customer demand is there, okay? But also the NHS have introduced a number of programs. A good few years ago, they introduced a low carb food program, which looked to reduce your carbohydrates. But they're really getting behind now the ability to reverse type 2 diabetes by reducing the amount of carbs you eat. And they launched the program called the Rewind program. And funny enough, as you could now imagine, bread, our lovely, lovely go-to bread, is not on the menu. We can get it back there though. So we know that there are other derivatives and gradual innovations of bread, but the low carb opportunity to fight obesity where it isn't wanted and help reverse our incredibly expensive type 2 diabetes epidemic, which is here today, is available to everyone. So you think about it, yesterday healthy bread wasn't that tasty and expensive. Today healthy bread is tasty but has a price premium due to the ingredients, and tomorrow healthy bread will be at a similar price and will be the convenient right choice for everyone. So if you are a government agent, then we should be acting on it now, and I'm happy to get involved. And if you are an artisan baker or big industry, your opportunity to continue to keep your customers happy and now let them be healthy is here. Okay, so thank you very much. That is a nice little summary there, and I guess I open the virtual floor for any questions.
Thank thank you, Andy, for delivering such a thought-provoking session here at Bakery Live. Could you tell us why you wanted to talk about this topic in particular?
Couple of reasons really. Partly passion, and partly because I feel that the scientific concept, although it is like more one search term, it's driven from America and other areas. It's quite embryonic in the UK, and with the true benefits. I mean, the benefit that it gave me personally, but then the benefits I'm seeing and the repeat benefits I'm seeing from my customers, and what loads of anecdotal stories I could share with you. It was just something I wanted to share. I've got a PR colleague friend who gets on his high horse quite a bit because he's really on board with the health perspective. And obviously we go for our awards, and there was a recent award won. I won't name by the company or the award, but the bread won, and it was a white chocolate covered fruit filled loaf, and that's just, you know, juxtaposition of what we should really be looking at. So I was just really passionate, just trying to show that you can make really, really good bread, but really, really healthy and tasty.
And I think there's a real push from consumers wanting healthy bread, wanting that in their diets. What does your customer base look like?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. So when we started, I thought, from an entrepreneurial sort of have a bit of fun type thing, that there would be other people in my boat who were sort of terrible dad triathletes or mum triathletes that wanted to just try and do a bit better. And when we launched, we actually did, I think it was 104,000 orders in our first year. Completely crazy surprise, all through word of mouth. And we were asking our customers loads and loads of questions because they were really loyal and great. And we found that about 80% of our customers buy for weight loss purposes. And it's kind of a Venn diagram type thing, but an overlapping 50% buy to manage ailments such as diabetes. Started with type 2, but there's a lot of strong following from type 1 diabetes as well. And we've got other ones as well from other medical conditions. So drug-resistant epilepsy in children. We work with a charity in that regard. So yeah, it's weird really, because if you look at the percentage, you know, if you look at a UK sample of percentage of people that are either diabetic or are challenged with obesity or unwanted obesity, it's similar to the portion of customers that we've got. So yeah, it's definitely aligned to the rest of the world, I think.
That's really interesting, Andy. Who do you think, I mean, you're speaking about the government a lot, who do you think has the responsibility to make sure the food that we're eating is healthy?
Now, from a political answer, it probably would be we need to work together, government, industry and consumers. But I just heard today that I think the COVID conversation is going to be going on for another 6 or 7 years in terms of investigation. Things going to take too long in the world. So for us, let's just change the food labelling system, a simple change to allow consumers to see really the hidden sugars behind it, and then just step back and watch consumers make that really clear decision that they go, well, that's got more sugar in than that. I just don't want to eat that one. And industry will then finally react by looking at innovation to reduce the amount of hidden sugars in their products and ultimately make them healthier. If you try to do it from an industry first perspective, then it's not going to happen, because profits and everything else are going to stop things happening. I mean, how long has it taken HFSS to get in place? And if you wait for government, it's going to be a long, long time to introduce potentially a hidden sugars tax, because you have to be able to demonstrate those hidden sugars and therefore change the food labelling system first. So change the food labelling system, nice and easy to do, and then let the consumer lead the way.
I think it's a nice note to end on, collaboration.
Yeah, thanks.
So, thank you so much, Andy, for taking the time
Absolute pleasure.
to speak with me.
Thank you for the invite. Thank you so much.